everybody? Welcome to the newest episode of the podcast. On today's podcast episode, we got Yousuf Leads and our the new man, the myth, the legend himself, Rubiani. He'll be constant co-host now. Inshallah, we will be the new Muslim Fresh and Fit. Myron Gaines, you better watch yourself. We're coming for you, buddy. We're coming for you. Now, Yousuf Leads, when we dug into your channel, you stated you used to model, correct?
I do. I still do, actually. I'm a fashion model.
Oh, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, with those gorgeous good looks. What less can you expect? Do you mind going
Um,
into the story of how you started modeling?
I actually never thought about myself as good looking, especially when you're a teenager. You got all these expectations. And let's see if you can see it. My nose, for example, is not the worst looking nose, but as a teenager, the beauty standards always different. And you have more of a standard of boyish looks. And then you're going to be self-conscious about everything. Okay, your nose looks weird and all that stuff. With my body, I never actually thought about that's bad, but with my nose, I always thought, okay, I got a bit of big ears and all that stuff, relatively big ears compared to my boys friends who had actually flat ears like that. So I never thought about myself as a model. Actually, never heard of that I was a model. After the age of 25, I think, well, maybe age gracefully, I had women tell me that I look pretty good, that stuff. And after the age of 30, people were actually telling me, why are you not modeling? You look pretty good, because I always was pretty photogenic. That was pretty good. Also, back in the days, you don't know about pictures, and then you're going to make photos in bad lighting. And when I was 35, I just got a DM from a beauty pageant of the Netherlands. I didn't even know that there was a beauty pageant for men. And after the age of 31, in the fashion industry and the modeling industry, you're kind of considered as senior. So I did it. I didn't know what to expect. Never knew that there was a beauty pageant for men. And I won. And from there on,
Alhamdulillah.
network got bigger and bigger. And now I'm working on fashion shows, which is very ironic because I have zero knowledge of fashion. Some people just have it, I guess. It's an unfair advantage. So a lot of people are very self-conscious with the clothes, for example. They're like, oh, is this wrinkled? Is this not? And all that stuff. I have zero sense of fashion. A lot of times people say, my brothers and others close to me, they say, why are you wearing that? And all that stuff. But apparently the baseline is already there. So I guess I always had it in me. I just never expected to go in here, in this
So
route.
you briefly discussed the importance of taking good photos. Do you mind giving the audience some practical advice on how they could upgrade their photo game?
So a lot of people come to me and they say that they tried Tinder and all that stuff leading up to this picture thing. And they're like, I don't get leads, I don't get matches. And they also get in a very negative route because there's a lot of people online, let's say fresh and fit, red pill content, and all that stuff. They actually give you very negative side perspective of women in general, which is not always true. Of course, when you're in Miami, there are subcategories of women who are like that. That doesn't mean that women everywhere in your local town in Holland, for example, are like that. And a lot of times when you look at the pictures of people, it's actually very bad. It's just a bad corner or it's bad lighting. For example, this video over here, I guess both of you have better equipment than me. I just have better lighting. That just makes it a lot better than artificial lighting. And even though your phone these days is pretty good, professional pictures are still better. And professional pictures in good lighting is even more better. And if you have a picture of your own, you can always face tune a little bit up. So your pictures are even more better than that. There are so many things you can do these days. You can just Google it up. Just use that, for example, for your online profile, Tinder dating, and stuff like that. And you have already a lot of matches. Then you know if your pictures are good or not.
Rubiani, as a looks maxing coach, what's your feedback on that?
Now, what I gotta say about that, honestly, getting getting professional shots, especially like done with like actual cameras, just it's a night and day difference. Like it's almost like you can tell the difference between like a professionally done kind of photo shoot, and rather than just like your iPhone or whatever, so definitely recommend that for generating more leads, especially in the online scene. I say, like, in the marriage apps preferably, because I'm a halal kind of guy nowadays. So with that, definitely recommend these professional shoots.
And on the discussion of marriage apps, how do you balance maintaining being halal with dating apps?
So actually, up until a month ago, I didn't even know that these apps were there. Of course, there are specific apps, like app that's for Jews, for example, Jew dating. I actually not even know J something. I do know there are specific of that, like disabled people who can date in that, but I didn't know that there was a halal version of that. And it's kind of interesting these days because I know my dad and his dad back in the days, we had our own community, or we
Mhm.
went to the mosque, or we knew from our parents, we knew each other. We got matchmaking, and that's how it goes. Or you meet someone from high school, and it went that. These days, especially in the West, but also in every major city in the world, you kind of have a basic if you want to get married. So you first need to get a house, you first need to get this and that. But you can understand if you're a teenager, you're already pretty horny, right? So you're gonna commit zina, or at least you're gonna do something that leads to zina. And especially after COVID, people went online, and it's very easy to find these dating apps and go halal at the same time. You actually need to get married as soon as possible. So you have to do the best of both worlds. Of course, you walk in the summer in a Western town, you cannot always lower your gaze. But if you want to have a balance of both halal and haram, at least you can only gaze at women when you have the intention to approach her and talk. Okay, if you don't have that, don't give your attention away for free. Lower your gaze and go back home because there's no benefit for you. You might just go online and find some other video. I don't want to be provocative on the YouTube now, but you're just wasting your energy, and you can better spend your energy on finding women where you have a future with. You can do that with halal apps like Salams, Musmatch. If something like a mosque or your mom or your dad doesn't work out. Because when I was 16, I wanted to get married. But of course, when you have a mom, she's like, go first to school, go first to college, do this and that, get a house and all that. I'm already 26. My testosterone was a lot higher back then than now. And I'm already pretty horny right now every single time I see a girl. So no, it doesn't work out like that. And it's also a sign of the end times that it's just not possible to be halal and do nothing until the age of 25 and get a house and all that stuff. You need to get matches as soon as possible. You need to get married as soon as possible. And I do understand that there's not a lot of choice in your local community, not in your local mosque, because probably a lot of people in your local town or even in the big town where you're in New York, you're kind of lonely. You don't have a target market. And then you need to find your leads. That's what my name is, Yousuf Leads, through apps, through Facebook, through Instagram. That's the only way I know how to get halal and haram and have the right balance because you have to have the lesser of two evils.
Ladies, I'm just letting you know I'm still single. I'm still single. So if you guys want to slide in for a couple discussions in terms of marriage, I'm always open. And Rubiani, you recently got married, alhamdulillah. Do you mind
Alhamdulillah.
discussing what the journey was like for you?
Well, brother, to be honest, it was just basically like, okay. So what happened was I had Mehdi and whatnot, and he kind of gave me the blueprint of how to get married, and I executed accordingly. And alhamdulillah, I was able to find somebody through the Salams Up who I love very much today, and is gonna be with me for the rest of my life, inshallah. And basically, the way you go about it is, like I said, you want to have a good profile, which comes with having these, good pictures of yourself. Like Yusuf mentions, he's like the pictures are like the thumbnail, right? And your bio is like the title, right? And if you have those things down, right, getting the leads to, I guess, have your foot in the door with your leads makes it very, very simple, right? And so I was able to do that, and alhamdulillah, I'm married now. So
And it went pretty quick. So it is possible. I mean, before I
Absolutely.
met you, I didn't know that was possible so quickly with Salam's apps. Internet is a double-edged sword, right? You can go very bad, but you can also get very good at some things if you have the right tools. I guess you had it as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How do you target yourself, or how do you market yourself correctly to the Muslim woman target audience? Target audience.
You know, a lot of people think you need to be good looking, a chat and all that stuff. I mean, people will look at Rubiani, they will say, of course he gets matches and stuff like that. But I mean, I've seen some older pictures of Rubiani. If he posted that on the apps, probably he wouldn't get any matches. I mean, you need to, just like YouTube, every single time you look up a video, how to make the best YouTube video. They always say, get a good thumbnail, get a good title. And the first 30 seconds needs to be very good, eye catching. So if you say about a thumbnail, that's your profile picture, that's your headshot, that's your upper shot, that should be your best picture. Then bio is your title, and the rest of your pictures, that's the first 30 seconds. And the target market is often very difficult to find on apps like Tinder and Badoo, although you can always get Muslim women over there as well, because not every Muslim woman knows about the Salams app or the Musmatch. If you want to target at least your target market, and in this case, the Muslim community, you need to be on a lot of apps because let's be honest, women look at us different than we look at women. We say, okay, women are at least okay, we will swipe right. Women look at it the disqualifying way. So if you're not at least confirming 80% on what they think it's good, they would just swipe you left. And for them, it's not a problem because they get leads all the time. You know, quantity for women is a lot good, but the quality for them is a lot less than for us because a lot of time women follow us. If you have a lot of matches through that, you also have to think about the amount of leads you can get. Everyone who has worked in sales knows that there's a closing rate of 1 to 10%, which means for every 100 leads you get, you can only close 1 to 10. So if you have 100 swipes on Tinder, you might have, in the best case, 1 to 10 swipes back. In the best case, even the best case, even the chats, even the models, even the 6.5, whatever. If you're going to do that, you also come into a funnel, which means there's 100 people who matched you out of thousands. And from there on, it's another funnel, 1 to 10. You can see that's going to be very difficult if you're just on one app. The best thing you can do, of course, if you have the money for it, you need to have paid apps. Paid apps, the algorithm just benefits you. You can also go on other apps and have paid over there too. I mean, you need to invest in yourself. And you can start off, of course, with good lighting and a phone, but eventually you need to improve yourself. You need to improve your messages. You need to improve your lead quality, which can always mean that you need to be in better apps, and you need to have paid profiles. I do know a lot of people say, I don't want to pay for women. You're going to pay for it anyway. You're going to pay for it at a divorce. You're going to pay for it at the quality of the women you have. When you're married to someone you actually don't want because you don't have the best leads and you cannot choose, yeah, 10 years on the road, you're going to be like, oh man, 10 years ago, I felt so young. I wish I just invested in myself and did that. If I go to a profile of mine, for example, then I see multiple leads, like 40, 50 leads. I can actually swipe the ones that I don't want to. As for example, not to be disrespecting, but let's say women are 45. It's not really my target market, so I go there. Let's say there's a divorced woman with two women. It's also not my target market. I go to the left. For a lot of men, they don't really have another choice. So for women, they have all the choice in the world because there's always someone who wants that. If you as a man want your target market, usually that's someone between 20 and 25 if you're a decent looking guy. Usually someone who wants to be very submissive to you, agreeable. Then you need to have a lot of matches, a lot of dates, and a lot of leads because you can be lucky. You can be lucky the first match, the first lead. You can be a lucky guy that could be your future wife. Most men are not lucky enough to have that position, which means you have to look further and you have to be abundant. And it's very difficult to be abundant in your mind if you don't even have that abundance. Most men don't have that luxury. Most men actually don't even have a good profile. So it's actually very easy to stick out. If you have a good picture, that's already 80% better than most men. So you will have more abundance than that.
What are your opinions on Instagram being the main dating app people are using?
Instagram is very difficult because I do get leads from Instagram as well, but I'm also in a niche of beauty pageantry, which means
Mm.
I get DMs from models. That's because it's a very niche market. If you're in a niche market where you have more women than guys, of course you will get attention. I'm not sure if there's a niche where there are more women than guys, maybe in the creative industry. For example, dancing. If you're a professional dancer, might get that. If you are a musician, you might get that. If you're like in the fashion industry with clothes, in my case, beauty pageant, fashion walker, you will get those. But I do agree that for most people, that's not sustainable. And it's also a very long term game. I would not recommend Instagram actually for people because most of the girls who are on Instagram either have a big following or they have a little following and they will only follow guys like me, for example.
So you discussed the importance of self-development, and it does seem that your channel is very focused on self-improvement. And one particular thing that I found very interesting is the situation with Joe Waller. Joe Waller? Do you mind going a bit into that?
Definitely. That's actually one of my most favorite video. Everyone comes to my channel from Jay Waller. So there's this guy on internet, Andrew Tate, and he has this friends of him. Jay Waller is one of those. My mission on my channel was actually to show people that the internet is a double-edged sword. There's a very good amount of information, but there's also a very bad amount of information. Good thing about the internet is I meet you guys from the other side of the planet. I'm from Europe, you guys are from the American continent, and we can provide each other value. Other downside is you don't need to look me straight in the face if you want to sell me some snake oil. And a lot of times people don't actually know the difference, especially if they're younger and they get lost and find the stuff in their environment. So this guy Jay Waller, he actually came up on the internet as the crew member of Andrew Tate. And then his mother made a video. Actually, just sent a message out of his mother, and then she told a whole letter or a whole video of that her son is quite narcissistic. I do have to say, I'm not sure if she's narcissistic herself, but it does say something about that. Paywall is actually quite banned on YouTube now. It was very funny because he was also getting a lot of leads from other people, which is also in the same show because he got invited to The Bachelor, and so did I. And I actually wanted to reach out to him, but he never reacted. So that was kind of sad. But Jay Waller, the thing is, he's actually pretty good in business. Funny enough, he's also in construction like me. He might have some good advice about that. I do have to say to a lot of people that don't follow his advice on the pill and dating and all that stuff because that's pretty shitty. A lot of times when people look at people like Jay Waller, when they are too groomed on the internet, kind of looks gay. And, it's not a lot of things that you should follow about that. It's also a lot of things that what he says. Most people don't have eye for it, but if he comes up with stuff like I open the door, I order the dishes for you, I do this, I do that, it's kind of in the same red pill space, which is you can just hear clearly that these people don't really have a lot of women in their life, or at least not women that genuinely like them for them.
It seems that they don't have high quality women. They're used to dealing with low quality women, and that's the issue with the red pill.
Just, back in the days, this was 10, 15 years ago, if you looked up internet, how to meet girls, you probably came to Mystery Method, or you probably came to Neil Strauss. I found that, and that was actually because most of my friends were not good with women, which is okay. Okay, I mean, back in the days, we just got married to each other. Our parents found each other, and that's pretty good. These days, you don't really have that luxury. You just want to meet women, right? Or else you're going to go into harem, which is also not good. You find these New Strauss mystery guys, and the concept was basically sociable guy. Okay, talk to people, a house party, or get some other parties. Invite people over. You have more women coming over there. Someone will be interested into you. From there, you can go further. Whether it's a fling, whether it's a long-term relationship, and go from there. These days, it's actually very much of an extreme, which is you see a lot of people who scream the most, might be somewhere in Miami or they might have a podcast. They actually go to a very toxic side of the manosphere, which is a kind of red pill. And for a lot of people, they think, okay, you have 1 million subscribers, so you kind of know better than most people, which is not even true. That's just a bias, which is pretty much bad for that. And but a lot of people just think, okay, just because these people have clout, they know a lot of stuff about women. You just have to look at the quality of the women they have. It's always gold diggers. It's always women who are not really pretty. It's always women from ratchet side from Miami. These are not people who actually can show you results. You should not follow people who actually are poor and they give you advice on money. Neither should you give advice when your women are actually not even pretty. So that's actually very easy to see. But I do understand that most people, the first thing they find these days when they go on internet how to get women, find fresh and fit and all that stuff, which is a very toxic dumb face.
So one of the problems I have with like the fresh and fit and the whole red pill as a community, like the whole thing, is like way they like tell you like on how to go about finding these women. It's just like because basically you get what you get when you go into these kind of places looking for, you know, a partner. You know, if you go to a like I don't know, a club and you find a woman there, like how do you expect that? What correlates in your mind that makes you think that that's gonna even remotely work out? Like y'all met in a party in a club. She was twerking on like five other dudes. Like, what did you expect to happen? Why would you even want to consider meeting women in these places rather than going out to, like, I don't know, a library or something and finding women that way, you know?
The blind is leading the blind. You will never see someone online saying, go find your girl in the library. Even though she might be the same girl in a club who might be mean to you, in the libraries, he might be someone who's studying, but at least in the libraries, he will be more genuine. Maybe in the clubs, he will just go for a few times just to have fun, not go with a guy. And that's also a possibility. You will never find these people say about that. It's just the blind leading the blind. I guess it's also all status game, especially when there's stuff like Miami, New York, London. A lot of things over there are based on status. I mean, if you get a very pretty high quality girl, that's one thing, but most of the girls they get is pretty ugly. You can actually at your local supermarket, you can find much better quality women. It's very weird. It's so yeah. And a lot of people believe that because if you just look online, there's nobody who says that. Nobody will tell you that. That those pretty girls are actually in the local market. I have to be in a privilege where I'm around a lot of models. A lot of these models also have boyfriends. These are not 6 feet, six-figure incomes with a six pack, 666. Even though I'm one of those myself, that's just a coincidence. Most of the guys that they are dating, they are just a little bit taller than them. They're decent looking. I mean, most of you both are look better than most of the guys that the models are dating. Models might be 5'6" and the boyfriend might be 5'7", You might be not the tallest guy, you might not get every woman on the planet, but let's say if you have the target market, maybe my target market is 1 billion women will like me. With you is maybe 100 million, like you, 5'6". It's still more women than you can ever handle. And if you can get even 4% of that as your target market, it's dating apps, whether it's your local library, whether it's in your town, it's still more than enough to find your quality woman. Fresh and Fit will never tell you that.
Just gonna make it clear to all the ladies watching, I'm actually over 6'1", have a six pack, fulfill all the needs you need. Oh, my DMs are always open. Or besides that point, one issue I do have is finding the balance between halal and haram in the dating market. How are you able to find that balance?
The first thing what you need to think about yourself is what do you want? Do you want a fling? Do you want a long-term relationship? Because the very first thing is actually Very difficult these days because not even Muslims and the parents know this. Like, if you date halal, how does it actually work? How does it work these days? Very easy to commit zina these days than have a marriage. It's kind of ironic because the reason why we act nikah is to prevent our private parts. The best thing I would say for people to do is go on a coffee date, whether it's on an app on Hinge, whether it's on Alarms, Mustmatch. You can actually have all kinds of women over there. And even if you have non-Muslim women, you can always go on a halal date where there's a coffee. I mean, coffee just to get to know each other is not bad. Actually, with men who are quite lacking social skills, it might be even better to just keep it at coffee dates for a while.
Yeah, but that
Do
wouldn't
that.
exactly be like the target market though, because if you go on Hinge or Bumble, whatever, a lot of these girls are you don't really know what their intention is. With salams, that their intention is to get married rather than, go on a coffee date.
That's true. But it's also true that a lot of the women who want to get married and want to find a Muslim man are on the Salams and Muslims. Actually, until a month ago, I didn't even know that there was a Salams app until you told me that. So a lot of girls also don't know that. I also met a lot of women who actually are expats and they often go on Hinge. A lot of South Asian women, for example, they're for some reason they are Bumble and Hinge. They're on Tinder. A lot of time they are looking for a guy who's Muslim, but where can they find them when they're expat? You know, they're not going to the mosque. Maybe the friends don't even have brothers or something like that. Even for them, very difficult. I mean, you might find dates, but it might be non-practicing Muslim guy. That is also possible. Might be a non-Muslim guy. Us is a lot easier because even though women might not be practicing, they might be interested in practicing. They need a guy who leads them. It's going to be very sad for these women if you're not on Hinge and Bumble. You need to be the prize, of course. You need to lead these women to that. And coffee date is always good. You can also do a phone call, video call, but that's always a bit more difficult because, yeah, you just also have to need the energy, right? And after the first coffee date, it doesn't need to be that much, like 20, 45 minutes. And a coffee date can also be baba or tea. You can have a walk in the park. I mean, I think that's pretty halal enough, right? And after the first time, you can actually have a click or not. Sometimes you don't have a click, that's possible. Sometimes you feel that it can go further. From there on, you can actually decide what you want to do. You want to meet the wali, so the partner's brother or parents. Do you want to meet each other again for another date? That's also possible. And to continue how you're going to go in the future. For example, a lot of women, they might even ask you that second time, how do you think about religion? Do you want to pray and stuff like that? A lot of girls might also be intimidated if you're too religious, because there's a lot of girls who are not practicing now. And if you're fairly practicing, but you want to build a future together where you're very practicing, that's also a possibility. So I want to say no to men who are not religious. Might be open to converting. They might be open if they're non-practicing Muslim to practice even more, but after a marriage. A lot of men who cannot lead them. That's kind of sad. Which is a lot of times men say that we cannot find good women. I think it's the other way even more. I think a lot of women cannot find good men.
So it seems that men have to bear more responsibility for the fact that aren't getting good women. I had a quick question in terms of how do you get women to fall into your frame?
Very difficult to describe that because it is what it is. Some women will never follow in your frame. I mean, you can think logically about that, but we're talking about women who are not really logical. But then again, a lot of guys are also not that. Just think it in three categories. Instead of women falling into your frame, just think about three categories. Category will just love you for you, no matter what. Category dislike you, no matter what. One category is in between. Yes, no, maybe like you if I didn't have the boyfriend. I'm not ready for it. Those categories also there. Doesn't mean that there's a third of each. It might be that the last category of maybe might be the biggest. It might also be that the middle category of no might be the smallest. You just need to find a women who will be agreeable with you. And it is what it is. You cannot change a woman. I noticed that. meet women and she's agreeable with you, actually a very good sign that you can build someone together because she's already in your frame. She's disagreeable with you, very hard for that to change. It's not impossible. I would just say find a better woman because this woman might not be a target market. Might be good for someone else.
How do you qualify women? What sort of questions do you ask?
Questions is actually you can also have the talk about everything. You talk with women. I mean, of course, it's different in every situation. I actually want women who are agreeable, high on agreeableness. So that doesn't mean that you need to be disagreeing with everything she say. It can also be that you have a difference of opinion. That at some point she might agree with you in certain context. When women is in your frame, and that could also be with someone if she's 10 years knowing you, you can be very opposite with her opinion. In the beginning, as I said, women actually look at men in a disagreeable way. So you need to be as political correct as possible. A woman ask you for your religion. She's not religious, okay? You want to do it in a haram or halal way, let's keep it outside that. If she asks you if you're religious, you can say yes or no. You can also be very fake about it. You say, I do believe in a creator, but I wouldn't tell that I follow one perspective. One perspective. It's actually pretty not lying at all, because even as a Muslim, you follow the Abrahamic religion, right? Which is state Islam. But if you say Islam, she might be taking something else. Also means that you actually more on her disagreeable side. So she might be like, oh, this guy is religious, I'm not religious, so it's quite a no. It could be a point where you can agree with her, especially at the first date, in most sentences. So you can agree with each other on most things. It might be a sign that you can continue from there. Answer your question with that?
See, my issue is, shouldn't you focus on being authentic and standing by your values instead of conforming to the girl? As for example, I'm gonna be completely honest here. When I go on dates, I just literally whatever I believe in, I just tell them. And that just disqualifies the woman that I don't want to waste time with, irregardless. I feel like if you sit down and you agree with them, it shows them that you're basically faking yourself for it to fit their narrative rather than them falling into your frame.
Give you an example. I feel I can give you a societal thing, which is kind of sad. For example, in Korea, birth rates are very low. Multiple reasons for that. There's also a correlation that women get more and more liberal side, progressive side, and guys are getting more and more on the conservative side. So you can be a conservative, that's okay, but you're also going to disqualify a lot of women who are not into your frame. Say women have more choice than men. It's going to be very difficult for you to find a woman who is conservative now. And if you even find that, she has a lot of choice because there's a lot of conservative men out there. What you need to do is understand that women follows you. In the future, she might agree with you. There's also the saying, guys is right wing, a woman is left wing. And at some point, the woman might decide, okay, you know what, this guy, all right, I agree with him. I don't want to waste too much time with that. It might be later in her age. And she might be a little bit more liberal. At 30, she might be like, okay, you know what? I just follow my husband. That might be. Also, you need to understand there's no investment. Nobody knows you. If I'm gonna be with a woman, I'm gonna talk about her with my political views, talk about my stance on abortion, whatever. She might be very negative about that. And to be honest, I also don't want to be friends with conservative guys because they always like very strict in their beliefs. It doesn't mean that all of them are. I, as a guy, don't even want that. Why do you think the women want that?
I'm genuinely very confused right now because I've understood it seems as though you'd have to conform to the woman who as a lead.
Said a lot of things on the internet is just a blind leading the blind. Listen to Fresh and Fit. You might be like, always be on your way, be on your mission, get the bag. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? I
I
mean,
think With that saying, I think there's truth to that, obviously, but in my perspective, I believe it's better to get married while you're young, and that person sees you, you're I guess whatever, you're broke or whatever it may be. So but they see your vision. There's truth in what they're saying, get the bag and this and that. But where I think they mess up is where they say get the bag, then you get the women. I don't believe it's like that. I believe them hop on your back. It's like you're in the beginning of your journey, and they see the vision, they see the future, what they can be with you, and starting a family and doing all that. So that's why I believe it's like it's better to. Well, I say it's they're speaking truth, but they're also in lies, which is kind of like a deception, basically. Which is I think most guys are messing up, where it's like focusing just on the money, 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 get the women, but then and they end up getting divorced and taking half their stuff because they hit first and then they got a bad woman and then they lost. I think it's important to have like these balances, like yes, get the bag first off, but get the woman along the way as well. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
Sense?
if you're a prince, you turn into a king, right? And if a woman sees a good prince in you, wants to make you a king, why not make her your queen?
My issue is this, right? I believe that Rubiani stated not necessarily chase the bag, it's more so chasing a purpose. And moving towards that purpose and having a woman support you along that way, this is where I would disagree, is I don't believe as a man you should be conforming to a woman has to say in order to get the lead. I think more so that you stand by your values, your purpose, and your mission. If she's there for you and supports you, and as you stated, turning a prince into a king, she buys into the potential. It's all good. It's the basis of how I believe that the relationship should be formed. Rubiani stated it's better to just get married instead of through the dating market, because I do believe a lot of young men, and the reason why the red pill is so dangerous is because men go through that red pill phase and it destroys them internally. All these women are rejecting them. They're saying this to them, that to them. And let's be frank, young men can't deal with rejection, especially in today's society, because they're very soft, they're very comfortable. They're not prepared to bear said discomfort. In order to bear said discomfort, you need to slowly start exposing yourself. You can't just go right into the deep end.
That's the thing with these days as well. Back in the days, you had mystery method, you had RSD. Even though they were not perfect, at least you were taking actions. I've been rejected by thousands of women, like a lot. I mean, I think I'm a little bit overboard, but dating, it was a small thing back then. There's a lot of online dating. Of course, it makes it a lot easier, but that also means that it's very difficult for men to understand what they actually need to do. I do understand where you come from, frame and all that stuff, but there's also no initial investment in you. So if I know you for a year, have very confrontational opinion, I would be like, okay, it's just Sahab. Just know you, and you're gonna become master of your own dark jokes. Be like, this guy, no. Women just look at it that way. Smart. Let's be honest. Women are not smart. That's why they get divorced all the time. They go outside at nighttime and they get robbed. Creatures of logic. But if you can make them feel good, doesn't mean that you need to be pussy for that. Also, don't have to be very confrontational. But I know Rubiani, he has a picture with a gun. A lot of girls will like you if you're gonna post that on your profile picture.
I believe it's also I believe in being word polarizing. I believe when you're polarizing, you get the strongest connection with the people who do like you, who end up buying into you. I do those kind of things very purposefully because I want to be polarizing on purpose. Like hell, even I'm gonna come out flat out say this on a Salam's app, like how I had the the picture with the gun, right? The bottom of that is it's like a caption basically, and it said something you want to convince the world of, and then under it just put the Earth is flat. People read that or like it's not really a balance. It's like it's an extreme. I believe you can get the connections that way. 'Cause even if they disagree with you, they respect the fact that you come out and just outright say it, just take it in the chin. I just think it's overall better just to be polarizing. Like truly, that's what I believe in personally.
You just have to be understanding that when there's a first impression, people might think negatively about that. And it's going to be kind of sad if you have out of cake as a lead and you only get this because you're polarizing. You can also have this part of the cake. And there might be women who actually like you for your gun, but they also don't know the context. For example, if you have the woman invested in you, talk about each other, and then you're like, that was a gun owner, so he also takes me out to a gun. You show the picture. There's a context in that. That makes more sense. The first time, you also don't know what they think about. Maybe they have negative experiences. Maybe there's a whole bunch of people in their environment who are pretty racist with guns. And if you have a picture of a gun, it's sad that you might let some good girls go, be interested in you, didn't have that picture. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I see what you mean. But I think, in my opinion, it's better to have, like you just mentioned, the cake was like the slice of cake was this big, but shrunk down to this. I think it's better to have that little shrunken piece. It would probably taste much better, to be honest. You have the leads that you would want.
Exactly. But most men don't have that luxury. And if I open my app, I have maybe 50 matches. Most guys don't even have five. So for most men, I would not recommend doing stuff like that. I would just do stuff that difficult to. It is every single time on internet you see it become high value. What does that even mean? Makes sense. I would rather say don't show yourself in a lower value. Means have a group picture, the shortest guy of that. Why are you putting that on the app? Actually, the meekest of them all. That's a demonstration of lower value. If you are, for example, a manager in a construction company, the field, put yourself, yeah, you kind of know what I mean, right? Don't show yourself from far because you might look small, you might look like immigrant worker. Why do you want to do that? Actually have a picture like Jay Waller. He actually had a great picture on his thumbnail somewhere where he was on his phone, his feet, had his feet on the chair, and he was looking at a computer. Demonstration of higher value. You actually look like a boss now. If you're on the field, you're on your own, bad picture quality, that's a demonstration of lower value. So just prevent that, and you might get a lot of girls with that. Because most girls don't look at they don't want the best alpha male and stuff like that. They actually want someone who's good enough. If you have conversation with a lot of women, these days, especially these days and age, they might someone who's not toxic. And that might be more than enough for them. Because there's a lot of toxic guys, unfortunately. It's very sad to be a woman these days. And I'm not saying that as a simping thing. I had a conversation with a lot of women. I'll say the same. A life hack that I recommend a lot of guys is just go after the most pretty girls. It's also someone who won't say that to you because these fresh and fit guys, they will say, I will never date nines and tens because they have all high expectation. They might be bitches and that. In my experience, the most nicest girl are the most prettiest because there's no reason for them to be not nice to you. And in my experience, they might even go for guys who are a little bit less good looking because in a relationship, already bringing the beauty. And there's also a lot of women, they don't even want good looking guys because they might be afraid that they might cheat. It's logic.
I would have to disagree with some of the points. I do agree with a lot of your points. There are disagreements there though, because I believe that as Rubiani stated, you should focus on the sliver which relates to you because in terms of a long-term relationship, you need somebody who's going to stand by you. Be focusing on a bigger pie, and even focusing on dating at that point, you should focus on becoming a better man and improving yourself as a person and going for that sliver because literally dating is a waste of time if you have to go for every single lead. At let's say you find a woman, you stay with them for 1 2 years. That 2 years, that woman can destroy your life. I'll give a personal anecdote. I had a period of time where I was running through women, running through women, running through women. Correct. That spiritually destroyed me because get attached, slightly attached to one girl, and then okay, 2 3 days later, I'm with a different girl, then attached to another girl. It made it very hard for me to get attached or commit to a relationship. So that's why I believe it's better to just focus on yourself and your mission, your purpose, decrease that sliver based on that rather than focusing on having a lot of leads. Because one underlying issue I have in society in general is men are very weak. They let people run over them. Don't let people run over you. The only way you stop that is by having courage and standing for what you believe in. Because isn't that what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did? Despite the fact the entire Quraysh was against him, he stood up for his values, his beliefs, and his religion. And that attracted the right people. And that attraction resulted in a massive movement. And now look, 1 billion people are now Muslim. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is now considered the most influential man in history because he stood for his values and his purpose and his mission. So that's where my disagreement comes from.
The best thing to get married is at 16 from your local mosque. I know some people who did that, Mehdi, for example, but not everyone has that luxury. And especially in the day of social media, uh, you kind of have to be politically correct sometimes. It doesn't mean always. If you have the luxury to don't do that, that's also pretty good. But you can have your little slice of pie if you, for example, find your woman through a mosque and you're quite happy with the person who you. That's what I recommend everyone. Every single time I hear this online thing, like you don't be a blue pill guy and all that stuff, if a blue pill guy is my age, have a decent looking wife, and he has 5 kids, and he's maybe balding and fat and stuff like that. I have 0 kids at this moment. In life, is he further than me? I guess so. It works for him. Not everyone needs to be a red pill and all that stuff. But this is also if it works for you. If it works for you, do that. For most men, unfortunately, it doesn't work these days. Then they go online, and then they find this red pill, and then they get this toxic waste, which actually can be very prevented by just meeting a lot of women. And where are you going to meet them? Are you going to meet them in the library? Maybe. Are you going to meet them in the mosque? Maybe. Are you going to meet the women which makes you happy? Maybe. But if you don't have that, you need to meet more and more women, which means more leads. So that's actually the perspective I have. The more leads you have, the more you can choose a woman who actually is in your direction. Maybe you have 5 different women who want to follow you. Then you can choose one, or you can have 4 of them if you are lucky. But maybe you have a woman who is always on your side, but maybe it doesn't work out, and then you're divorced, and then you're single again. What now? Then you need to find new women, right? Where are you going to find them? In your local mosque? If you're lucky, do it. If you don't have it, you have the internet. You need to get leads. If you don't have enough leads, you need to get more leads. That's how what I teach. You get as much leads as possible. If you want more leads, you can get that. If you're lucky enough to find your woman in the first date by being very polarizing, you're lucky. Do that. But if it doesn't work out for you, then you need to change your game.
Well, the reason why most men can't be polarizing is because they're not good enough, which is a personal issue, you know? There's a lot of guys that just are posing online and or whatever, and they just look like, like you say, low value, whatever it may be. So I think that's more so of a personal issue. And I believe that every man can work on themselves. And if they work hard enough, they can be that polarizing figure they want to be, you know? So nah, that's my perspective on that because I really do believe in being polarizing and believing in your values and believing in yourself, and forget what sure I can generate a lot of leads, but if they don't really like me for what I stand for, then I don't want them, and like I said, it's a personal issue that the man isn't working hard enough on himself to be posing themselves as that polarizing figure.
I would also like to clarify I'm not red pill or blue pill. I'm very green pilled. I believe that the Quran and Sunnah is the correct way to go. And I
Well,
believe that going down either the blue pill route or the red pill route will destroy you either way. And I do believe that the reason a lot of divorces happen is because the man stops working on himself in marriage and stops leading the relationship.
I do agree with that. So you see a lot of guys who get married, they're happy already, and then they go downhill. They get fat, they get bald, and then so a lot of times it doesn't work out. And a lot of times they are happy, genuinely happy. but we cannot decide what's in their heart, of course. So yeah, I mean, you also have to understand, Rubiani, you're 21 now, I guess,
Mhm.
and a lot of guys 21, they're not very mature, so they don't have anything polarized to offer. They don't have anything to offer. They barely know how to do the laundry. So yeah, I mean, of course, women are not going to like them for the polarizing feel. Maybe because they watch a, I don't know, red pill video and they're like, we're always anti-facts for now. I
Well,
mean,
what
what do you
happened?
have to offer to women if you're anti-facts and nothing else to offer? If you're, let's say, Andrew Tate, for example, he's anti-facts. I mean, he's polarizing, but he has a luxury to do that. Most men, unfortunately, don't have this luxury. And if you're going to be very polarizing, you might have a little pie and you might not even find the right woman for you. And so that's the only thing I can offer to men. If it doesn't work out for you, you need to change the game.
So wait, you mentioned that it's what's it called when I guess you're around my age or you said you're like immature and stuff like that. You know, doesn't that seem more like a societal issue kind of
It,
thing?
it does, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people at the age of 30 are even immature these days. Yeah, what can you do about it?
I mean, didn't like well, was it Caesar? Wasn't he like 14 or something? I don't know exactly, but I know like a lot of kings and emperors were very, very young, back in the day, ruling over whole empires. So I think that's another issue right there, is the whole societal structure when it comes to childhood and men not actually maturing fast enough or being mature at a certain age. I think that's actually another issue that we can, I guess, pinpoint.
Let's give another example because Shahab-Khan, you're a South Asian. I'm also South Asian, so I can really give an example, which is quite sad, but it's a cultural issue. By the way, Caesar and all those people, they have the unfair advantages that their parents and dads were also kings. So they just got lead into that. Of course, it doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't work hard, but they did have the unfair advantage. We cannot be the next Caesar, for example. And for us, we have the luxury as three beautiful men here that we can be polarizing. Let's say you're Indian. You kind of know where I go to Sahab. There's a lot of toxic culture in South Asian communities and a lot of low self-esteem men. If you're 5'5", you have darker skin, you have an accent, and you're in an environment where there's a lot more men than women, yeah, you can be polarizing, but you already don't get any women. Now you get even less because for the women, there's a lot of choice over there. If you're in an environment where there are more women than men, for example, in the modeling industry, yes, you can be a bit more polarizing. When you're 6 feet, you're good looking, you're actually in the top 20% of men. Then, of course, you can be more polarizing. If you're disabled, if you're relatively bad looking, if you are in a country where there's a darker skin complex, for example, yeah, you need to find a lot of leads there. Only then you might be lucky enough to find something, unless you find your first wife immediately. It was a lot easier back in the days when you had communities. You would just marry a far cousin, for example. But with the globalization these days, and when your parents move to other places, it might be a lot more difficult.
I would agree with you to the point where it says that you have to become a man that other people respect or women respect in order to have polarizing decisions. My thing is, instead of even going dating, just focus on becoming a man you can respect or woman can respect, who other girls want and other guys want to be, and then enter the marriage market.
I would rather say don't demonstrate lower value. That's the best thing I can say. DLV. Also in the dating term or in the pickup community, there was this demonstration of higher value. There's also demonstration of lower value. For example, if you're with a group of men and you already look meek, or your friends, I would say, they pick on you, and there's a girl next to that, why would that girl be interested in you? You need to find your target market. You need to find better friends. Yeah, maybe you can be a guy who gets respect from other men. That's true. But the concept is to stay. Just don't have a demonstration of lower value. That's the thing.
Okay, awesome, right, guys? We've gone to the hour mark. Let's end with a fun question because we've been going at it for a bit now. So, Yusuf, if you were to eat food from one country for the rest of your life, what cuisine would it be?
Nihari from Karachi.
Oh, that's my guy right there. That's my guy. I'm a huge Nihari guy myself, actually.
Karachi has the best food.
Fully agree with that. Hey guys, I believe that this is a perfect place to end it, and we usually end it with the "Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?"